We'll call John later. Good evening. I begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Garrick?
Here.
Pepcorn?
Here.
Preston? Here. Strand?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here. The police department held its 26th annual community picnic on June 16th at Urban Plains Park. It was an evening filled with fun entertainment and valuable interactions with members of the Fargo and surrounding community. Here is a short video made by our city communications team.
So this is the Fargo Police Community Picnic. We do it every year. It's something that's really important to us and in the community, just to get us all together. With just an open invite to people that live in the area and live in the city to come and just kind of experience what we do on a daily basis, and then a lot of activities for kids and families and stuff like that. It brings you back to the excitement that you had when you were a younger kid and just hitting the siren and getting to talk to a police officer and kind of looking straight up at them and the excitement that you have behind all that.
Just getting out and seeing all the cool tools that law enforcement, ambulance, and those have available to us, things you don't see day to day. It's not every day you see a sheriff's deputy out on a snowmobile, but here they are in the middle of summer.
We're real excited when we get to spend this sort of time with the community. We're big on inclusion here at the department, and so we just want everyone to feel welcome in the community.
Getting to see us, meet us, see us face to face on a positive interaction instead of on a bad one when you're involved in a car crash or something, is a lot of times the only time the public has an interaction with us. And so to come out and get to meet and talk to people, see us in a positive light, and know that we're here for you, and that's truly what it is. We have to get kids excited and invested early, right? So some of these kids today maybe are experiencing that for the first time, getting to walk up and hop on a motorcycle, and they're telling us that they want to be a police officer someday, and I hope they follow through with that.
So it was a nice event and a little bit different. We had it at the Urban Plains Park, so it worked out well for the community. Library, more than 1,700 residents have registered for this summer's reading project at the library. This year's theme is Tales and Tales, and the residents of all ages are encouraged to register and participate by reading every day to complete the challenges, earn badges, and win prizes. The program runs through August 21st. The Children's Department is also releasing its second Tasty Traveling Tales story time and snack video this week, and the featured continent is South America. Health. As of June 25th, Fargo Public Health has administered 47,866 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. The Public Health Service offers COVID-19 vaccine 4 times a week for anybody currently eligible. Beginning July 6, Tuesday walk-in clinics will operate from noon to 6. With the recent announcement that the Delta variant of COVID-19 virus was confirmed in North Dakota, it's increasingly important for eligible residents to receive a full vaccination series to protect against this and all other variants of the virus. Vax Up ND for all of us. And you'll see that our communications department has put some great videos out in regards to the community. The Fargo Public Health team works in some of the most diverse and far-reaching initiatives of the entire organization. Here is a video showcasing a few of the larger objectives the health team is focusing on in 2021 in the next installment, We Work For You series.
On December 22nd, Fargo Public Health started administering COVID-19 vaccine to our area first responders and frontline healthcare workers. Based on our limited allocations and supply at the time, it took us about a month to get through that group. On January 18th, we began administering vaccine to older residents and those with high-risk medical conditions. As the North Dakota Department of Health announced new priority groups were eligible to receive vaccine, we adjusted our communications and vaccine operation accordingly. In early February, we were invited to relocate our vaccine operation to the former Gordman's building and shared that space with both Sanford and Essentia Health. In late April, we were able to move our vaccine operation to our main location, which has allowed us to begin the process of integrating COVID-19 vaccine administration into the other services we provide to the community.
We continue to encourage members of the community to get vaccinated against COVID-19. It's one of the best tools that we have to fight this pandemic. It gives us the power to protect ourselves, those we love, and members of the community. The FDA emergency use authorization has 3 vaccines currently available for COVID. Moderna and Pfizer are both a 2-dose series with a specific amount of time between each dose. Moderna is authorized for individuals 18 and older. Pfizer is now authorized for individuals 12 and older. The Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine is the only single-dose vaccine at this time, and it's authorized for individuals 18 and older. And individuals are considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after either their second dose with Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 weeks after their dose of Johnson & Johnson. COVID-19 vaccines are similar to other vaccines. There may be side effects after vaccination. The side effects are normal signs that your body is building protection against the virus, and these are actually good things to see because then we know our body is doing what it needs to do to protect us. Side effects that you may experience could include muscle soreness at the injection site. You may have a headache, feel fatigued, you may have chills, but typically over-the-counter pain relievers can be taken to help you feel better and relieve these symptoms you may have. We provide COVID-19 vaccine at our main building, which is located at 1240 25th Street South in Fargo, or you can call 701-241-1360 or visit our website for details.
WIC is the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program. WIC is the most successful public health nutrition program in history. What studies have shown that women who are on WIC have better pregnancy outcomes, they have larger birth weight babies, their kids that are on are better immunized, and they have got better cognitive and vocabulary recall at age 4. So WIC really makes a difference for those moms and those families. The goal is to break the cycle of poverty for those moms with good nutrition. One of the parts that makes WIC successful is that one of the studies has shown every dollar spent on feeding a pregnant mom saves up to $4.50 in medical costs for that mom. That's tallied up from reducing premature births, having fewer low birth weight babies. So WIC provides food for families, it provides nutrition education, and it provides community support for families that have got a pregnant mom, a mom that's had a baby in the last few months, children up to age 5. Our WIC nutritionists see about 50 families every day, and they provide a unique set of targeted services to help families give their children a healthy start. We have a community of nutritionists and a lactation consultant ready to listen, to share information, and provide guidance and moral support. So WIC is about more than just food. We're able to empower parents and caregivers by helping them get the tools to raise happy and healthy kids. If you're interested in applying for WIC, please call the office at 701-277-1455.
So last fall, when planning for COVID, we were able to repurpose the building so that we had a space for quarantine isolation for individuals who have nowhere else to go. The whole point of the Downtown Engagement Center is really to try to get everybody connected so we can get them out of homelessness and into homes. I think when it comes to housing and my role here at the center, it has been very helpful to be able to have just a place, anybody, whether they're accessing shelter services or not, to be able to come in so that we can connect with them. It's so much easier to have them on site so that we can try to work on getting their ID and social security cards and then fill out the housing applications and get them submitted so they can move into homes of their own.
The Gladys Ray Shelter serves unaccompanied adults within the FM area who have no other options for shelter. The Engagement Center expands that reach a little bit to provide anybody that might be homeless within the FM area with those basic needs or just that place for respite. Engagement Center is a real opportunity. Central to that is our location. We are in the heart of downtown Fargo. That is where our people are. That is where they end up first when they come to town. That is where they circle back to, no matter how long they've been in town. It is important that we can reach people where they truly are at. That is more than just a statement of what we stand for and how we reach people. We are physically actually able to reach them where they're at. So the Downtown Engagement Center is really just a place filled with those amenities and those basic needs items that a lot of people take for granted. So we have showers for our guests or for somebody that needs them that might be staying outside. We have laundry facilities as well as a phone.
So the benefits of the Engagement Center is that people have a place to go and connect with resources. And also it helps that they get to create that relationship with us. They just stop by sometimes, they just want to talk to somebody, talk about their situation, where they want to head to, whether they want to go to treatment, or whether they want to apply for housing. So it really just helps to have a place to go and to talk to somebody, you know, to help them move forward in life.
Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the order of agenda, adding item 33.1 to the consent agenda?
So move, or second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the June 14th, 2021 meeting?
So move.
Garrick moves it. Who seconds it?
I'll second.
Preston seconds it. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 39?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in seconds. Preston, Strand. Roll call vote, please.
Preston? Aye. Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. We're going to open up to public comment at this time. Resident comments. Our first speaker tonight is Jack Shaw. He's speaking about handicap parking.
Good afternoon. My name's Jack Shaw. 3 years ago, I had a handicap parking put up for my wife. And apparently, Dr. Tony Gehring and a couple of my neighbors got together and had it pulled. They said I was using it for my personal use. Well, if I come up here to the auditors or engineering and ask for one, and if no one's parked there, does that mean I've got to park otherwise in case somebody else pulls up and want to use it? Or can I park my car there? Well, they pulled it. I think that's unfair and I would like it back. If not, pull all the other ones off the road. Thank you.
Christopher Cohn, Wildlife Management Program.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I support the, I think it's a hate crime ordinance, what you call it. But I'm here to talk about the wildlife management program. And I want to say I'm not in support of continuing it due to the safety issues. Because we have an increasing number of residents going into these parks and riding their bikes on the trails and walking into these areas. Now, I did call the city attorney last week to ask if the city has any insurance on this to protect us from future lawsuits if anyone is injured. Didn't get any answer back. So maybe tonight we could ask him that since it's on the agenda and get an answer on that. I propose that maybe the city not pay for indemnification for the insurance. I propose that the hunters vendors pay for that themselves, that they be bonded at $2 million each, and that if they injure anybody, that they be bonded at $2 million each. Because if somebody gets injured, those bow and arrows they can kill a deer, they can easily kill a child, and they can do grievous damage to an adult. Secondly, beyond just the safety issues, I began to ask, what is the purpose of this program? It has very fuzzy beginnings in 2005, something to do with landscape complaints from residents and possible collisions with cars, but no one really knows for sure, not the park system or anybody else. And I'd like to know, are there any measurements of effectiveness taken with this program? No, there aren't, apparently. So we don't know if it's effective whatsoever. And we're paying at least $165 in police time. We don't know how much we're paying for the park police who was involved in that. That's not categorized anywhere. And it's essentially a program designed for the bow and arrow hunters. And it's to provide them venison meat. It's not in the interest of the Fargo residents at all. It just puts them in a position of possibly being sued in the future if anyone gets hurt. Also, the park system, they're not recording any damage to the parks along the river. There isn't hardly any deer damage. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Krieger.
I'll be brief this week, now to try to fit a history lesson in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'd like to address the commission on the new hate crime ordinance that will be passed today. I'm asking that all of you vote for it. I know 2 may not, but I'm asking for everyone to vote for it. It will show a sign of strength and unity for Fargo and a message for North Dakotans to see. I'm not asking you to go against your principles, but a principle to protect everyone from hate should be one you hold dear. Commissioner Pepcorn, you call it a slap on the wrist, and I would like to know what you do for a living, but being a father of 4, being a teacher, and
Was I misunderstood that you're not supposed to directly
thank you. I
address
apologize.
anybody?
Sorry.
Is that correct?
You are correct. You are correct. I apologize. I'll rephrase.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling me out. I appreciate it. No, certain people have said this in a slap on the wrist, and I'd like to know what certain people do for a living, because being a father of 4, being a teacher, and being my wife going through medical school, $1,500 and $1,500 fine and $30 a day would be really cause a lot of issues in my life. And also I'm not including the record I would be stuck with. Also, if in the ordinance any anonymous telephone call with a coarse or offensive language does apply to people, please report it. It's here to protect you. You're included in the ordinance. We all deserve to be treated respectfully without hate, and I want certain people to be protected as well. I'm not out of worry because some people here are huge and I'm terrified of them, but because we should all be allowed to have our beliefs and to be open and respected. Other commissioners mentioned that, and they are correct in the research, there's no research that shows hate crime just past do reduce crime. And sadly, I was surprised by that, but it's accurate. But I ask for your vote for this to make a statement for our community, to everyone, for everyone, it is safe, and that if one bad apple commits a hate crime, they will be known for it, and it would have to be up to them and their efforts to change their public persona. Thank you. Have a good day.
Arden Light.
Hi, my name is Arden Light and my pronouns are he, they. A common argument against this ordinance is that all crime should be treated equally. And I understand where the argument comes from, but I don't think the people making it have really thought critically about the statement, and I don't think they're listening to marginalized communities, because not all crime is the same. If I hear that someone in Fargo with pride flags on their car has their car broken into and slurs written on it, I, and many other queer people, will now be more afraid and may try and hide our queerness. But if I hear that a random person's car is broken into for no reason, I, as someone who owns a car, am not going to now try and hide my car. I hope that this argument convinces you that not all crime is actually the same. I would also like to thank everybody who has taken time out of their life to support this hate crime ordinance, and I'm hopeful that it will pass tonight. Thank you.
Wes Philome.
Wes Philome, he, him, his pronouns. I'd like to start by saying, long live George Floyd. On June 5th of the last year, when 3,000 people gathered at Justice Island Park, I posed a question to our city. Would that day be our ceiling, or would it be the floor of what we are capable of? I am proud to say that today we've reached the point of creating true tangible change with the possible passing of the hate crime ordinance. There are those who claim that the hate crime laws are divisive. They are not. The people who commit acts of hate on the basis of someone's race, religion, sexual orientation, or protected class are the ones who are actually divisive. Hate crime laws are meant to hold them accountable. 2 months ago, I shared factual data within these chamber walls, clearly outlining how our state had touched as high as #1 in hate crimes per capita for the United States. Yet we had 2 leaders vote down even exploring the idea of instituting a hate crime ordinance. Days later, the Moorhead Fargo Mosque was vandalized during a hate crime. On Juneteenth, bright and early in the morning, as we were setting up for the day, a white male in a pickup truck drove down to Lindenwood Park and almost struck 2 people before spitting at several others. On May 30th of last year, Paco Lopez was struck by Michael Griffin and carried for 3 blocks during a possible hate crime right here in our city as well. He was left with broken bones. It's one thing to spew hate from home, but when manifested into real life, the margin between simple intimidation and physical violence is slim. 49 other states believe that hate crime laws are needed to protect those most susceptible to being targeted. Up until today, our state did not. I'm glad that the ordinance has been pulled from the consent agenda repeatedly. May history and our community clearly see those who did their best to protect us from hate and those who stood in direct opposition. It was an honor to be a part of the team that made today possible. We must consistently strive to make Fargo inclusive for all. Passing the hate crime ordinance is a great start. It's not just important that we pass the ordinance, it's also important that we actually execute on it and it doesn't end up like the discrimination law we have for our state that no one has ever been charged with. Thank you.
Faith Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor and City Commissioners. I want to talk about the hate crime ordinance, and I encourage you all to vote yes to this ordinance. What I witnessed on this past Thursday at the P's and Q's office, that is a nonprofit here in the Fargo area, further solidifies that there is still racism and hate crimes being committed in this community. To ransack, tear up, urinate, and destroy a safe haven where the BIPOC girls go to feel safe is hateful. Again, I challenge each and every one of you to vote yes to this ordinance, and let's start a healthy dialogue and the process of healing. Thank you.
Sherry Furkel.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Sir Commissioners and Madam Commissioner. I am speaking on the hate crime, and I'm opposing it. I am concerned that the Fargo City Commission is working to pass an ordinances, there's more than one, on hate crimes by circumventing the North Dakota State Legislature. Even if this commission feels that this is a worthy cause, it sends a decisive message. It gives the appearance of pitting Fargo against the rest of the state. Rather than promoting a consensus, this will likely result in a defensive move by the legislature, either at a special session this year or at the next session. If the commission truly believes that these ordinances are needed and will solve problems in the city, then a strategy to bypass the legislature should not be necessary. If you believe that these ordinances are needed, then please consider slowing this process down, change direction, and work with the state legislature to draft a well-written bill. Please consider voting no so that the city can work to achieve something better through cooperation and consensus. Time spent in cooperation will be far more valuable than time spent in battle. We also have to consider that we have ordinances in our city that we are not enforcing. And this is one that is also, I feel we are not going to, enforce. First of all, we need to make sure that we are doing it the right way and that you're doing it for the right causes and for all. Being a conservative, you have to also consider everyone. Please vote no and reconsider looking at this in a slow, patient way and not be in a hurry to pass this tonight. I thank you for your time.
Brock Carlson. Brock Carlson. We'll close a public input meeting and we'll go to item 41. This is public import opportunity. Application to transfer a Class C alcoholic beverage license from Big D's Bar and Grill to Shotgun Sally's Rock and Roll to BB&E Partners, Fargo LLC, Twin Peaks Restaurant at 1515 42nd Street South. Steve Sprague to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Obviously, if you looked at the agenda, we have a number of liquor license transfers actions to take tonight. That's a result of the liquor board being established and a few things kind of getting backlogged. So anyway, we'll jump right in here. The Shotgun Sally's is a transfer of the license to Twin Peaks Restaurant. It's the Class Z, which does not require food sales. It has gone through our review process and gone to the Liquor Control Board and comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this transfer? Anyone present who wishes to speak? I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Preston.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question first. I'm a little confused. The Z licenses are non-transferable, are they not?
That's correct, unless the transfer is a going concern. And so what's happening here is that the Shotgun Sally's did not go out of business or close. They came into an agreement to transfer the business operations. And then the people that are hoping to get that license then are going to rebrand and then open as Twin Peaks Restaurant.
So let me just ask a few more questions. So are liquor license issued to a corporation or are they issued to individual owners?
Well, the licenses can be issued to a person or, a corporation, any kind of a combination like that, like LLCs.
This seems to defeat that whole thing of a secondary market. I'm assuming in the transfer of the business, they've also paid for that license as well then. And we haven't gotten anywhere with making them non-transferable.
Well, the thing that I think we were trying to stop was like when Ground Round closed and they closed the business is out of operation and they sold the liquor license. In this case, had Shotgun Sally closed the business and said we're putting the license up for sale, that wouldn't be allowed.
Commissioner Gary?
I just want to say, Arlette, I mirror your concern. I don't think we should be selling licenses. It's now a commodity. We've made liquor licenses a commodity where someone owns it and can sell it to the highest bidder. These are licenses that are government licenses. You shouldn't be able to buy a deer hunting license, for example, and sell it for 4 times what you paid for it. So I understand the system. I know where you're coming from, but I mirror your concern, and we should stop the transfer of these altogether, and they should go back to the city and reissued. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Mr. Preston.
One more statement. So I had thought and understood that the non-transferable piece of all of this was to bring the license back into the city, and that the city then would reissue a new license. This way, we're not able to control that transaction that happens. I don't understand the benefit of this, doing it this way. And granted, that's a issue that probably is a longer term issue that we need to talk about again, probably. But I would ask the Liquor Control Board to take a look at it again.
Nancy Morris, do you want to comment to that, please?
Fortunately, I don't know that I'm in a position to comment. I'm scrolling through the ordinances, but I don't know the exact terms of when a license is transferable and when it can be issued to a new entity as a going concern. So I'll have to look into that further.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Garrett, got another comment?
Yeah, I think the reason that we do this, Arlette, is because we are concerned that if, let's say this business sold and then the license went back to the market, someone would snatch it up before they could, and that building would sit empty without a liquor license. The way to fix that is to give the first right of refusal, right? So it comes back to the city, they have the first right of refusal to say, I want to buy that license from the city first. If I don't want it, then it goes back on the market. But that way, it's not a commodity anymore. It still comes back to us. They pay the going rate the city sets. So I think that's what we should do with the Liquor Control Board, is set that first right of refusal.
Steve, just for the public, what's a Z license worth?
The initial issuance fee of a Z license is $105,000.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Application B, a transfer of Class C alcoholic beverage license from Downtown Holdings doing business as Fort Knox to Vault Partners Fort Knox at 52nd Broadway. Sounds like we have the same thing going on.
It's exactly the same thing. It's the people that bought Fort Knox. So Fort Knox was originally opened, and after a number of years, the original owner sold to a group that thought that they were going to build a large office building on that spot. Later on, that group moved to a different area, and they no longer needed the land or the business. And so now that group is selling everything. You know, it's the business, it's the building, it's everything. And so, as Commissioner Garrick said, you wouldn't make that investment in buying a bar if you didn't know that you had the license to be able to run the bar. And so that's exactly what's going on here, as the mayor indicated. This, again, has gone through our review process and comes to the city commission with a unanimous approval recommendation.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this license transfer? Is there anybody who wishes to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Preston?
So a number of these, and not just this one, has some incidents with the background checks. What is the criteria for determining whether something is significant enough or not?
There was a guideline that was put together under Chief Todd that said, you know, if you had a DUI and it was 10 years past, for example, that would be outside the scope of saying that you are not worthy of having a liquor license. And so all of the issues that are reported within the background checks are outside of the guidelines.
Any other discussion? Mr. Garrick?
Yeah, it's true. There are guidelines, but there are disagreements as well, right? So sitting on that board for a couple of years, I often voted for or against someone who had issues. It's a gut feeling by the board. So I hope that this commission looks at those issues as well, because it's really a gut feeling. The guidelines are there, but they're not set in stone. It's not, hey, you had this, therefore you're not qualified. It is a 5-0 vote or whatever the vote is to have that. So it really comes down to what the people in that board.
Any other, Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious, is this, are these recommendations before us tonight
Did they come from the newly formed
Correct.
Liquor Control Board?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Application transfer license, RZV, alcoholic beverage license for 670 Event Center, doing business as Sanctuary Event Center at 670 4th Avenue North. More than 5% ownership change.
This is a case where not only are they transferring the license, they are selling the stock. And so the person that originally started the Sanctuary Event Center is looking to move on to some new business ventures. And so he is selling to the person that's been managing the business for him. And it does come to you with a recommendation of approval from the Liquor Control Board.
Anybody present who wishes to speak to this transfer? Anyone present who wishes to speak? Not, I'll close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Pepcorn, who's second?
Second.
Garrick, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item D, transfer application license F, alcoholic beverage license to DTSG Incorporated Famous Dave's at 2581 45th Street South. Again, more than 5% ownership change.
Very similar to the Sanctuary. This is a case where the owner, principal owner of the business actually passed away. And so his stock was being sold to two new individuals. And again, done the background check and comes with a recommendation of approval.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak regarding this application? Is there anybody who wants to speak? If not, a closed public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pepcorn, Garrick. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Application for Class FA Entertainment Alcoholic Beverage License for Fargo Teas at Sweet Shots to be located at 34 James Way, continued from the 5/3/21 regular meeting. Steve Sprague.
This is if the next two licenses are issued, they will be the second and third FA Entertainment. They are designed for entertainment facilities, was the creation of that liquor license. The one that is in existence is Fargo Billiards, so it's a large facility. We do allow them to include the price of like the games and that type of thing in with their percentages, rather than being just all food percentages. This is to be down on the 52nd Avenue South area. They're building an entertainment complex between these two businesses. This one with the Sweet Shots is similar to the Top Golf that we see down in the cities. And have done the background check. I believe there's 8 partners involved with this. And although there were some items mentioned, none came to the level of concern with the Liquor Control Board. And so it does come to you with a recommendation of approval.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address the commission in regards to this application? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak? If not, close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second? Pepcorn, Garrick. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item F, application for FA Entertainment Alcoholic Beverage License for TC Entertainment, doing business as Kingpins, to be located at 3485 Jacks Way, continued from the 6/1 regular meeting.
It's just in a similar neighborhood. It has many of the same investors involved with it. This one, the primary theme is the bowling alley. There are also going to be video games and laser tag and different things like that. Again, an entertainment facility. And again, there are some people in the background check that had some issues in their past. Again, none of them rose to the level of concern with the Liquor Control Board following our guidelines. It does come to you with a recommendation of approval.
When are they going to open, Steve? Do you know?
I think that they're on schedule for late fall opening.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this transfer?
This is a new issue, not transfer.
Oh, I'm new application. I'm sorry, this application. Anyone wishing to speak? We'll close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Preston.
Just a question here. So the guidelines, Steve, you mentioned 10 years with,
I was just, I
Off
don't
the
know
top of your
exactly
head?
what they are. Yeah.
okay. Because this one is just within the last 4.
Yeah, I think it'd be best for me to get you those guidelines because,
Okay.
yeah.
Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Application for GH alcoholic beverage license for Joe's Smoke and Barbecue at Jay's Smoke and Barbecue to be located at 1322nd Main Avenue, continued from the 6-1, the regular meeting. Steve Sprague.
The GH is a beer and wine. Jay's Barbecue is located in the old Mom's Kitchen. That building does not allow the patrons to be able to move freely from the Mom's Kitchen side to the tailgater side, which was a concern previously when we had some liquor licenses issued, operating 2 businesses under 1 license, that type of thing. I don't know if you remember that, Commissioner Gary? Yep. The patrons cannot move from one side to the other. They do share a kitchen facility, but again, we've done the background check, and this one comes with a recommendation of approval. The GH does require food sales to exceed alcohol sales.
Very good. Is there any public who wishes to speak to this application? Is there anybody in public who wishes to speak? I'll close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Gare.
No bar, right, in this one?
Correct. It's table service only.
Is tailgaters, do they hold an A license, or what do they hold?
They have,
They're a bar, right?
they're a bar. It's a no food required license.
So if they blew a hole in the wall, they wouldn't be able to have young people in the Mom's Kitchen side?
If they blew a hole.
Right, because it's connected, right?
Yeah.
So in order to have one license, if they would just open it up, they could have one license under the same roof, correct?
Yeah, I think that the thing is here that we have 2 different owners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jay's is
That makes sense.
yeah, totally separate from Doug DeMink that owns Tailgaters.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You got to get out to the bars more, Steve, so you know how they're all set up, huh? Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Application for Class GH alcoholic beverage license for KK Management doing business as the Frying Pan Family Restaurant to be located at 310 Main.
This is going to be actually, so again, it's a beer and wine, food sale, exceed alcohol sales, no bar allowed. And when they build their new, or they move into their new facility, they're going to have an outdoor patio area, and they wanted to be able to, enjoy that and allow their patrons to enjoy that also. And so we've done the background check. The people that have the frying pans, are not, the owners are not from Fargo, but the manager that is running and will continue to run the frying pan has been with them for over 20 years, same guy. So it does come to you with a recommendation of approval from Liquor Control Board.
So, the President who wishes to speak to this application? Anyone present who wishes to speak? Close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Frying pans are going to have alcohol. Oh, that's a change there, Steve. Come on now. Application for Class GH alcoholic beverage license for Surrey Suites at Surrey Victorian Tea Room to be located at 3 8th Street South.
And the final application for tonight. So this lady was quite fascinating to be able to visit with her. She grew up in Russia and immigrated to the U.S. and spent some time, I believe, teaching at NDSU and has stayed here in Fargo. She's actually running the Victorian Tea Room currently, and so she just wants to add alcohol to her list of available amenities. Again, it's the GH, which is beer and wine. The food sales must exceed the alcohol sales. No bar allowed. And we've done the background check, and there were no issues that I can recall.
What does a GH license cost?
GH, initial fee is $700.
Okay. Anyone present wish to speak to this application? Anybody present wish to speak? Close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, but Steve had a question. She had some issues and then you were gonna follow up. Did you do that? And did she resolve some of the issues in her past credit stuff? Wasn't that part of it? I don't know if that's correct.
Now we've gotten to the point where we have
I apologize.
so many that I've forgotten about it.
Anyway, she had some past credit issues, and so she was supposed to get those resolved. But a couple of things I just wanted to add. I apologize for all these being at one, but we got backed up, and I want to appreciate Commissioner Gehrig serving on there. The new group is a good group of commissioners, and I want to thank Steve and Nancy did an excellent job. We have a 3-ring binder now for that committee, and so now it has the history, your responsibilities, what goes on, and I think that's been just great. So we had kind of a meeting before the meeting about their responsibilities. I think that was great, and I hope we do that with all the rest of the committees because it was very well done. So thank you very much for doing that, and I think that was a great precedent, and I hope all the other standing committees do it because I think it clarifies what's supposed to be going on. So thank you very much.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner
That was a long first.
I'm sorry about that.
No, but Mayor, I was going to ask the same question. So we don't limit the GH, right? There's no limit on that?
No limit.
So just so the community knows, there's a lot of people trying to get the FA license, which is the restaurant license, so you can serve all alcohol, wine, and beer. And that's $100,000.
Yes.
And you can have a bar with that.
Correct.
If you don't have a bar and you don't sell liquor, it's $700 for this license. So for a lot of businesses, this makes a lot more sense. And people see that $100,000, which is a lot of money, as a barrier to entry. With this GH license, I'm glad we're selling a lot of them because this is a much better deal if you just want to sell wine and beer in your establishment. So
I will follow up on the credit issues, make sure that those were taken care of. It seems to me they were, but right now my mind is fuzzy.
It's from being on the farm all the time there, Steve. Now you got to spend more time in town, eh? Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gehrig?
yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Hey. Craig's Oak Grove, second edition, 515 Oak Street North. Approval recommended by Planning Commission 6321. Zoning change from multi-dwelling residential to downtown mixed use with conditional overlay, and the first reading of the rezoning ordinance. Aaron Nelson to explain.
Thank you and good afternoon. So as you said, this is a request for a zone change. The subject property in this case is located at 515 Oak Street North, which is just about a third of a mile northeast of City Hall here on the south end of the Horseman neighborhood. The intent of this application is to accommodate residential redevelopment of the subject property. The subject property is currently vacant, with a number of blighted structures being demolished over the past 5 years or so. The applicant intends to construct a 3-story multi-dwelling residential building on the subject property. The DMU zoning district would accommodate the proposed building, but would also permit a greater intensity of development than the applicant is proposing to construct. As such, the proposed conditional overlay is tailored to the specific development intent of the applicant. Specifically, the conditional overlay standards are outlined in your packet, but I have them summarized on the slide here. I'd be happy to talk about any of these if you'd like, but just to highlight a couple. The uses are prohibited to household living only, and then the density is capped at 35 units per acre, which would equate to a maximum of 21 units on this property. Overall, staff finds the proposal is consistent with the intent of the GO 2030 comprehensive plan as well as the applicable requirements of the Land Development Code. This item was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, and the suggested motion is on the screen here. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for staff.
Is there anyone present who wishes to discuss the zoning change? Anybody present who wishes to speak?
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, I'm advocate for heritage. I'm on the Fargo Moorhead Heritage Society, and I'm just concerned that this is a historical neighborhood, and does this
I guess, does this development follow the integrity and character of this neighborhood? I think the people of the neighborhood would want it to be in line with what their historic integrity is of that of the neighborhood. So I guess I wanted to just include that, is to make sure that it does have integrity of what this development is going to be put in that area. The other thing is I know that we're moving toward form-based land code, and is this something that is needed in this development, this neighborhood? Is this something that the residents and the homeowners are wanting in their neighborhood? Do they get a voice to choose what is going to be there and what is not going to be there? I just have some questions is all. Thank you.
Close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve, and then I have a question.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Arlette Preston, or Commissioner Preston?
So,
Question?
Aaron, can you just review for me the difference between, and if you go back one slide, the difference between what was it originally, MR2 zoning in the parking and the density?
Correct. Yep. So the existing zoning today is MR2. The maximum residential density for the MR2 zoning district would be 20 dwelling units per acre.
Okay.
The proposed DMU does not have a residential
Right.
density, and so the conditional overlay would cap it at that 35 units per acre. And then the parking in most residential zoning districts would be 2.25 units per acre. In the DMU zoning district, there are no parking requirements, and so the conditional overlay would establish 1.45 parking spaces per unit.
So when you said 2.2 per acre, I'm assuming you mean per unit?
Per unit, yes.
Okay. So just to address the issue of this being close to a neighborhood and also being on the edge of what was the DMU boundary, but now we've extended that. Do you see these criteria as being kind of a gradual decrease in density towards a single-family neighborhood?
Yes, and that's really the intent of the conditional overlay. If you were to read the LDC, and the intent of this is to kind of smooth those transitions between different zoning districts, and the context here being kind of the area to the south and the surrounding areas MR2, and then as you transition to the north, the immediate properties are MR2, but they are single-family houses on those properties, and so yes, this would be contextually a transitional zone from south to north.
Mr. Garrett?
If Jesse's willing to answer a question, I'd like to ask him one. Would you be asking for incentives on this property?
No.
No incentives?
No.
This would be a first.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna vote
That's
for
the
it then.
promise I made to the city and to the neighborhood, and same with the integrity of it. And, a lot of care and time was spent with the meetings with the neighborhood to make sure this is what they wanted, as least as close as we could to get to it, with more brick and things like that on the architecture on the outside of that. If anything, it'll probably set a precedent, hopefully, for that neighborhood. The blight and stuff that was removed from there definitely wasn't the taste and what the neighborhood wanted that to be known as. So hopefully these are all improvements, but yeah, no pilot, no TIF.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yep.
You can vote for it now.
I'm going to.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Tran?
Thank you. This might be the most obvious question in the world, but are these owned for ownership or are these for rental? I can't quite tell.
Can't do that.
Sorry, I should have stayed up. These are going to be sold. There'll be condos that'll be sold.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please. Thanks, Jesse.
Preston?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 42, text amendment to section 20-0402 and repeal section 20-0403 of the Fargo Municipal Code, Land Development Code relating to prohibition of firearm and ammunition sales as a non-farm commercial use or home occupation. Action delayed from 6/14 regular meeting. So we're to receive a report from the city attorney, which we did in executive session. And then Eric is going to explain some of the discussion we had, and we have a suggested motion at the end of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm the city attorney. What I'm about to talk about, House Bill 1248, is an example of a conversation that goes on every couple of years during the legislative session, where there's tension between the idea of local control or what should be left to the state to legislate. It happens between states and federal government as well, and is the topic of philosophical arguments and political science arguments and what's good government, whatever you want to call that. But my intention is not necessarily to get into those matters, nor to get into the issue of the gun issue or firearms issue, but just to outline sort of what the framework is legally within the state of North Dakota with respect to this issue of local control. Let me just identify sort of what the two competing interests are. We have our City of Fargo Land Development Code home occupation ordinance. So home occupations are businesses that are generally allowed in residential zoning districts as long as it isn't too intrusive. There are regulations that identify how many customers and whether you can have employees come to the site, things of those natures. But in a limited manner, there are businesses that are allowed to operate out of residential zoning districts. Those are called home occupations. There are some exceptions to those things being allowed, and on this slide are listed some of them: mortuaries, sort of pet kennels, and the sale of firearms and ammunition would be included in that. By contrast, Century Code's section 62.10103 is a state law in the chapter that deals with firearms and so forth. And House Bill 1248 was introduced at this last legislative session in January 2021 and was ultimately enacted in its own amended form. That House bill amends this particular firearm provision that's designed to restrict what cities can do with respect to regulating firearms and ammunition and things of that nature. So in essence, what 1248 does and what this section does as amended by House Bill 1248 is to prevent cities from enacting any zoning ordinance, or for that matter, any other ordinance that relates to the sale, transfer of ownership of firearms and ammunition, which is more restrictive than state law, and it says that all existing ordinances are void. I didn't mention this, but our home occupation law exists since approximately 2001. This home occupation law that prohibits the sale of firearms as a business in residential zoning districts. This slide simply identifies the complete language. The prior slide was sort of an outline form. So here's the rub, of course. The two laws conflict. We have a home occupation law that prohibits the business sale of firearms and ammunition in neighborhoods, and state law declaring that type of zoning law as being void if that law relates to the sale of firearms and ammunition and it's more restrictive than state law. I think one thing that's important to identify is the home occupation law, the definition of a home occupation is one that is a business. So in other words, this home occupation law is not designed to address individuals who happen to have a firearm and they sell it. That's not the kind of thing that's restricted. What's restricted is, a business of selling firearms in one way or the other. And that, by the way, is the same basic definition that the federal law through the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Administration regulates, is the sale of firearms as a business. So we'll get into now the state framework for this issue of local control. The North Dakota Constitution actually addresses that. Article 7 of the North Dakota Constitution addresses provisions in the Constitution regarding political subdivisions. Cities, counties are political subdivisions, park districts are political subdivisions, And basically, the first section in that article says the purpose of Article 7 is to provide for maximum local self-government by all political subdivisions with a minimum of duplication of functions. Home rule is also mandated by the North Dakota Constitution, and Section 6 of the same article requires, shall provide by law for establishment and exercise of home rule in counties and cities. The Legislative Assembly is required to do that. And the legislature has created an entire chapter that addresses home rule powers granted to cities. That's Chapter 40-05.1. I won't read this entire section, but basically what it says is cities become home rule cities by having a citywide vote approving a home rule charter, and then if that charter is approved, enacting ordinances consistent with the powers established by that charter. The city of Fargo, in approximately 1970, voted on a home rule charter, and it's been a home rule city ever since. There are some 133 home rule cities in the state of North Dakota. There are also home rule counties, similarly, who've passed charters. And what the state legislature has said is that when a city does pass a home rule charter and enacts ordinances pursuant to that charter, if there's a law that conflicts with state law, the city's law supersedes that of the state, and that provision must be liberally construed for those purposes. This slide provides a second location within the chapter regarding home rule cities that sort of says the same thing, that the intention of the chapter for home rule charters is to promote the right of self-government in both local and city matters, and statutes in North Dakota, while they apply inside the city limits, they apply except as superseded by city ordinances. So you just to touch, kind of check this box, in fact, a city home rule charter, according to state home rule charter law, says that a city has the power to provide for zoning, planning, and subdivision of public or private property. And the other thing that's sort of important to know about this particular situation is that unlike some situations where there's a local control issue, there might be a state law, there might be a city law, and they conflict with one another directly. The idea of the traffic fines was an example of that, where there were traffic fines for certain offenses at the state level at $20, and the city of Fargo had higher fines, if you recall that case. That was a home rule charter issue as well. This particular one, though, is interesting in that this pertains to zoning laws as it's applied to this home occupation matter. So in the case of zoning matters, state law, by a number of chapters in the Century Code, sets up zoning but delegates it all to political subdivisions, cities, counties, and townships. And there really is no state zoning regulation that conflicts with the city. They've delegated it all to, in the case of the city of Fargo, to the city of Fargo. And so the question that arises is that if the state has no zoning regulations, and by way of this particular provision, as amended by House Bill 1248, if the state has completely removed the city's power to zone by ordinance, the question is what zoning regulations apply to things that are related to the sale of firearms and ammunition. Now, there's business, retail sale of firearms and ammunition. What zoning regulations apply? And so we look at what does a zoning regulation mean? It's not just home occupation. The Land Development Code identifies what we call dimensional aspects. How far back from the property line can a building be built? How much open space must be left behind? What are the off-street parking requirements? Those are all zoning type regulations. Sign code restrictions are zoning regulations. There's a requirement for landscaping and parking lot, landscaping along streets, and so forth. And then there's sort of a simple example. For example, a retailer of firearms go ahead and build a store in the middle of a residential neighborhood, whether it be a historic neighborhood or Rose Creek or any other residentially zoned area in the city, and say, not saying anyone would do this, and they would say, you can't regulate us with respect to the city. And again, The interesting issue about this is the state doesn't regulate that either. Now, one thing that this is this is an important issue to a number of people that want to be able to, as a hobby business, we'll call it, sell firearms. And this always raises the question, is this some kind of a Second Amendment issue? This is not an issue. The home occupation law doesn't prevent people from owning or possessing guns or ammunition in their homes. It doesn't prevent people from selling or buying personal firearms or ammunition from their homes. What it does prohibit as a home occupation is people in the business of selling firearms and ammunition from residentially zoning districts. So it's not a Second Amendment matter. So with that, that's sort of the framework for this question that you asked for my report on. There you have at least a couple of options, and one is to go forward, and it's the bottom of the two, is to go forward to repeal the home occupation restriction that prohibits the business of selling firearms in residential neighborhoods. And the other would be, I mean, there actually is a third option, which is sort of to do nothing and leave the law on the books, but try to, take a position we're going to enforce it, basically tempting a lawsuit from someone who would seek to get a federal firearms license for this home occupation, and the city would say, well, that's not permissible under the zoning law. That would promote someone to bring a lawsuit against the city. House Bill 1248 authorizes an action for damages against a city if it violates 1248. And so that might be a possibility. The option at the top of this screen, though, is to authorize the city attorney to engage our litigation counsel and initiate a lawsuit asking a court for really clarification about this issue of local control, asking the court to declare as a matter of law whether this particular section, particularly as amended by House Bill 1248, meets the strictures of the Constitution and other legal strictures, but the Constitution as I identified. So I think that.
So I think you mentioned that August 1st, this law goes into effect. So if the city engages in a lawsuit at this time, you're trying to get clarity before the law takes effect.
Yes, I think that would be the preferred way to move forward if you were to choose to initiate this challenge of the bill of House Bill 1248, is to initiate the lawsuit before it takes effect, ask the court to issue an order enjoining the effective date of the ordinance until it can be, a little more time is allowed to adjudicate this issue and hold that law in abeyance. To give the city and whoever else might be interested in this lawsuit, challenging it to adjudicate it.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to authorize the city attorney to engage the city's litigation counsel to initiate a lawsuit challenging North Dakota CC Section 62-1-01-03, including the amendment enacted by House Bill 1248 from the North Dakota 2021 North Dakota legislative session.
Second.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Mr. Gary.
Yeah, I'm going to take umbrage with one of the statements that there is no state zoning laws. 1248 is a zoning law. It's telling us what we can or cannot zone as a city. Therefore, it is a zoning law. And we are in conflict with that. And in that case, the state is going to win. They wrote this specifically for Fargo. We're going to spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on this. And there are groups lining up to challenge this. So I'm not going to argue the merit of selling guns out of homes. What I'm going to argue is there's a clear state law on the books targeted directly at the city of Fargo, and we're going to ignore it or we're going to challenge it to the cost of all of you. And we're going to lose, and we're going to pay damages to whoever is going to sue us. So it's not smart. You win some, you lose some. I lose votes all the time. You win some, you lose some. And this one we lost. You take your lumps, you learn from it, you move on. We need to allow this to happen in the city of Fargo because there's a clear law saying we must.
Mr. Pipcorn.
So, Mr. Chair, so this is clearly, like we said previously, it's not a Second Amendment thing. This is the North Dakota legislature determining zoning for the city of Fargo, which is obviously incorrect. And this is about local control. We should be able to determine our zoning, not legislators in Bismarck. And so I think it's very clear, and I look forward to the clarification. And my prediction is we will be successful. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston? Aye. Garrick? Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 6:30. Thank you.
And easy to follow.
We'll get going again. It's my birthday, and I got to get home to my wife sometime. But
You didn't let John tell
Stole
everybody?
my thunder.
Yeah. Jeez. One joy in life.
43, receive and file ordinance relating to Boulevard Gardens. Kim Lepetsky to explain.
All right, well, good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. As you may recall, about a year ago, the Board of City Commissioners approved an interim Boulevard garden policy and requested that I return to the City Commission in December to provide a report about how it went. At the December 14th meeting, the Commission voted 5-0 to allow plantings on the Boulevard and authorize the City Attorney's Office to work with Fargo Cast Public Health in impacted city departments to draft an ordinance allowing Boulevard gardens. Also at that meeting, there was a request for the Cass Clay Food Partners to work with city residents to gather input and look at ways to simplify the process for residents to do a Boulevard garden. So in February, a virtual public input meeting for Boulevard Gardens was held. We also have had a meeting and subsequent conversations with other city departments to discuss stipulations in the ordinance. So the ordinance is in your packet. Stipulations are similar to those in the interim policy. The biggest changes are, first, no permit would be needed for a regular Boulevard garden. This would simplify the process for people who are wanting to do these. And another request from residents was to raise the maximum plant height from 24 inches to 36 inches. So we did put that in there, as long as there's setback distances are observed to make sure that the visibility line is safe for pedestrians and bicyclists. The ordinance would also allow raised beds. Since these are considered a structure, these that would be on the boulevard, they would require a permit for those. And then in the ordinance are some stipulations around raised beds, such as a height maximum of 12 inches size and setback distances as well. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at that ordinance. What we are asking for your consideration is to receive and file this ordinance regarding Boulevard Gardens.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. It was Preston and Strand. Any discussion? Mr. Strand.
Mayor, I'm just curious about procedure. As our motion is before us tonight, it's to receive and file and place it on for the first reading in the next regularly scheduled meeting. Couldn't we just get this done with tonight? Or can't we waive that?
Eric?
The step, if you wanted to sort of expedite, there you go, would be to waive the requirement of receiving and filing at least 1 week before first reading, and this be that first reading by the title of the ordinance.
I make that motion or that amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay. So you want us to vote on the amendment first, Eric, right?
That's what I heard him just say, yes.
Roll call vote on the amendment?
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Now, roll call on the first motion to approve.
As amended.
Yeah. With the amendment.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick? Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 44, first reading of the ordinance relating to classification ordinance violations, minor possession, consumption of alcohol. Representative Shannon Roars Jones has sent an email to the commissioners just to explain what this is trying to clean up. It was initiated by legal consult in Grand Forks and brought to the legislative body just to bring the penalties in line with the penalties as well for marijuana. So the regulation was changed to come in ordinance with the state law. Eric, do you want to comment on it?
No, that's my understanding as well, is that it was intended to align it with small amount of marijuana possession. I think the other issue is is at least as a matter of a practical matter for the court, at least our experience in the city of Fargo is that the fines are below the infraction level anyway. I mean, below the maximum as a general course. So that's the motivation for the change in the state statute.
Commissioner Pepcorn.
Well, I just think it sends an awful message. Underage drinking, to boil it down, they've reduced the penalties for underage drinking, so they're sending the message that it's not that big of an issue. And whatever the excuses they wanted to give, they should be ashamed of themselves. Then, from my perspective, the liquor control, so we have a $500 fine if you serve an underage person. What in the world are we doing that for? How can we justify that when the legislature says, it's no longer a priority? So I just think it seems like we're going after the legislature a little bit, but it's just unbelievable that the message they're sending is we're reducing fines for underage drinking and buying alcohol. It's just beyond belief, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrick, I'm going to test your knowledge here. What was the maximum penalty before, and what is it now?
You are testing me.
Yep.
1,500.
Yeah, I think it was a Class B misdemeanor before, so the maximum penalty was a 30.
Oh, Nancy comes. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Try
you.
to help you out a little bit here because I
Bail me
work
out.
with Will on this. It was a Class B misdemeanor. It was stricken, so it would be an infraction. So 1,500, 30 days to 1,000, no jail time.
Right. So, I mean, a minor going to jail, I don't think that's usual. It's not normal for a minor to go to jail for that. So, right. Everyone wants to be tough on crime, things like that. I understand that. But throwing a 20-year-old in college in jail for going to a party on campus, I don't think that makes any sense. So I'm fine with this.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you. Commissioner Pepcorn, I had similar questions at first. Like, what kind of messaging is this that we're putting out to our community? And then I started thinking more about it. Our community is ridden with alcohol. To call it what it is, alcohol's everywhere in our community. There's hardly anything that does more damage in our community than alcohol. And it's kind of like this sacred cow that we don't want to touch alcohol rights, but the costs to our world are just so immense. So I wondered about this. I wondered, why would the legislature do this? And then I started thinking about the kids that are getting arrested and their future careers are ruined, or they can't get jobs, or they can't get in the military, or they can't get hired, they can't get housing sometimes because of this record. I'll say this. Let's address it ourselves and quit putting the message out ourselves that alcohol is just awesome and that we can celebrate it and we want it everywhere. Because that's what we do. We don't rein it in for the adults, but we want to rein it in for the kids, the children of adults. So I have problems with the messaging, absolutely, here. But I also have more problems with our lack of willingness as a community to address the immense problems of alcohol. We talk about opioids, and we talk about meth, and we talk about needles, and we talk about all these other things, but we won't talk about alcohol. I'm sorry, I'm up on my editorial podium right now, but so I'm torn about this. I support not ruining kids' futures when the behavior that they're modeling is what we teach them to do.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve, and then I'll make a comment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Preston.
So the $1,000 fine is still a pretty significant penalty. And, I guess I also think that and by all means, I'm right with you, Commissioner Strand. We have an alcohol problem in this community. I'm not certain that it will get cleaned up by putting kids in jail.
I think it all goes back to the comments we've had sometimes, John, when you've talked about you can't arrest a drug problem away. We can't arrest it to get it to go away. I think what you're really saying is we need to, as a community, look at drugs and alcohol and see what we can do. We have the highest amount of addictive deaths right now that we've ever had. We have issues with alcohol within the community. So I think it's really an opportunity for us to relook at that and see what we can do. Whether we have to rule the rule panel back to relook at addiction and the issues we're having with drugs in the community, we should start to look at those things. And why not include alcohol in the dialogue? So I will support this motion. Roll call vote, please.
Excuse me, Mayor, help me just
Mr.
clarify,
Sher-
what is the motion?
First reading.
In the,
To approve a $1,000 fine.
to approve the legislative changes?
Yes. Roll call vote.
Preston?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
No.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. 45, second reading and final adoption of the following ordinance related to the public safety and morals and welfare: criminal mischief, hate crime; harassment, hate crime; simple assault, hate crime. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the second reading and final adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Strand, Commissioner Garrick.
I'd like to add an amendment. We add political affiliation into this. Looking around the country, you see a lot of attacks on people based on what they believe politically. People wearing the wrong hat color, if it's red versus whatever, those type of things. So if we're going to have this, let's add political affiliation in there with it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Nancy Morris, you helped direct this ordinance, right? Would you want to comment to that? You guys must have explored a variety of different things. I don't know if this was brought up for discussion.
Well, I can say that it wasn't brought up for discussion earlier than today, but it was raised. And I can tell you that there are some jurisdictions that do have political affiliation as a hate crime by state. I was not able to locate any in a quick research by city. And that I think both California and Florida have recently proposed adding political affiliation. So it is not a protected class that is protected by the North Dakota state statutes or Title VII, but I don't know that it would be necessarily prohibited either.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Preston.
So can you, with your research, was there some definition of political affiliation?
No, I can't provide that right now. I think that there would be some statutes that would be out there, but I don't have them in front of me now. Just a quick research on, is it possible, was kind of the response.
So what I would suggest is that we move forward with what we have, let you do the additional research, come back with that amendment in the future.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Roll call vote, please.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
No.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
No.
Mahoney?
No. Motion on the first motion. Any other discussion on that?
Just a clarification, Commissioner Preston, you didn't second that, did you?
No.
Dave did.
It was Pepcorn that was second on the last motion. Sorry to clarify. Roll call vote on the first motion.
Commissioner Strand, I think you're supposed to move your microphone in front of you.
I'm sorry. Say that again? Are we on the main motion now, Mayor?
Yes.
Are we done with the dialogue and discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Roll call vote.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
No.
Pepcorn?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. City of Fargo Wildlife Management Program. Thank you for restraining yourselves.
I know that wasn't for me. Good evening, Commission. As a follow-up to our June 1st meeting, our department held a public hearing on the Wildlife Management Program on June 24th. The information is contained in your packet, but just for the crowd here, we had 10 folks in person, 9 in favor, 1 against, and then 27 emails over the 3-week period. 23 in support of the program, 4 opposed. We received a number of other pieces of input. So the motion before you tonight is to create a study group, including the Fargo Parks and North Dakota Game and Fish, to further discuss the issues and recommend potential programmatic options and oversight. If approved, we'll bring you an update at the September 7th meeting.
Is there a motion?
That's a move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Does that mean the program is in place? It stays in place with that motion? Yeah.
We're going to have a study group and we're going to come up with options. So to me, it means we're suspended until we come up with those options in terms of how we're going to run the program.
It's suspended until then.
Well, I would think we would, because that's the purpose
I'm
of
gonna
the study
modify
group.
it. I'm gonna
And so
modify
so we're clear.
When is the season?
We would
change?
have enough time to get it going because nothing starts till October. So we discussed the option. As long as we know by September 7th what we're doing, we will be able to roll out a program.
All right, I'm going to modify the motion, and it's going to be to keep the program in place, and in the meantime, we'll have a study group with all those stipulations. But the program stays in place and is run the exact same until such time.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Gary?
So I went to the meeting, and yeah, you're correct. There were a lot of voices in support of. One of the issues that was brought up by the police representative was the safety issue. And how long has this program been going on? Like 13 years, something like that?
Since 2006, I believe.
Okay, so something like that. The only safety issues that they could come up with were one arrow was found on the ground outside of someone's home. One arrow. I can find arrowheads from thousands of years ago in my backyard. So to me, that's not a safety concern. The arrows themselves must be marked with your name on there. So you go through a license structure, you go through a training or a proof structure. You have to be able to hit the target in place. They have to prove you can shoot an arrow. Then you have to mark the arrows, and you have to collect the arrows afterwards. And you have to report how many shots you took, how many shots you missed, and how many shots you hit. So there's zero safety issue here. So no one's been hit, no property's been hit, no one's been hurt, nothing has gone wrong in over a decade of this program happening. It's a highly successful program. People have a higher success rate in the city of Fargo than North Dakota has with rifle hunting, for example. There's some 40% success within the greater North Dakota area, and it's more like 46 or 48% success in the city of Fargo. That's a very high success rate. So it's very successful, and it does manage the population. The concern about more people, we have a greater population now than we did back in 2006. Well, quite frankly, in the hunting areas that we have in the city of Fargo, which is right by the river, we now have fewer homes due to buyouts from the diversion. Much fewer homes. So there's much more green space with fewer people out there. So where there might have been children playing in the backyard of someone's home, now there's nothing. And those are whole neighborhoods that have disappeared. So the population of Fargo has grown, but the population in those areas has shrunk dramatically due to those buyouts. It's a highly successful program with no danger, and people really enjoy it, and it is effective in reducing the population. So there's really no need for this program. Are there improvements to be made? I totally agree. There were people who were supporting the program who said, here's how you can make those improvements. And I'm all for those. Let's study those. Let's take input from those people. But to get rid of this out of hand because of some people not liking hunting is not fair, it's not correct, and it's something we should shy away from. So I'm highly supportive of this. I hope everyone on this commission is as well.
Could I ask a clarifying question, please, of the commission? With your amended motion and approval, because the likelihood or one of the options would be to potentially close some areas due to pedestrian traffic. If you're telling us to implement it as it is, we won't be able to do that. And so that part will be off the table.
Eric Johnson.
I was going to just, thank you. I was going to pipe in, regardless of these two options, in order for the program to go forward, it requires an annual resolution. And typically that resolution identifies the areas that are sort of the hunting areas and whatever other restrictions there might be, whether it be a fee or something like that. So kind of regardless, if you want to go forward to the motion, Commissioner Gehrig, just so you understand, it just doesn't happen automatically. It still would require the chief to come back with some kind of a resolution, which I assume he would be able to do within the time frame that he just identified. So I'm not sure if the two ideas are completely at odds.
So we could change the zoning or whatever like they normally did annually, and that's what Tony's wanting to do. Is that correct, Mr. Gary?
I think that fits, Chief. Do you think that fits?
Well, I think if you tell me to start it the way we did it before, then it doesn't fit because it takes away from the study group the ability to close certain areas if that's what they decide to do. Or if a different entity takes it over, and that would be my only concern, we would be defeating the purpose of the study group. And there's still sufficient time with the September 7th meeting to ensure that either it goes as is or it goes as determined.
And the point of the motion is to keep the program in place the way it has always been in place until you come back with that study group. If that study group happens and things change before the deadline, then so be it. But what I don't want to have happen is for the season to be changed, altered, or canceled because we're in some sort of limbo mode where we're deciding what we're doing.
Chief, I think Commissioner Garrick was reacting to suspend the program when you mentioned I'll suspend the program. I think what he's wanting is the public to know the program is still going on and you'll come back with the study group in September 7th to tell us the function and form it'll be.
Sure. Sounds good.
Commissioner Garrick, is that correct?
Yeah, just as long as it's not canceled or
okay.
dramatically modified in any way. That's what's important.
And I think, Eric, that's what you were trying to say as well.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion,
The amendment.
the amendment motion, roll call.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
No,
Mahoney?
Aye. Now, do we have to vote on something else as well?
Yep.
that was the amendment, right?
Yep.
Okay.
No, the original motion was what?
We're voting as amended. We're voting on it as amended now.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Nicole Crutchfield, allocation of $100,000 to the 2021 Social Service Fund for the FM Area Foundation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, I just wanted to introduce a idea, a pilot, if you will, on how we normally allocate social service funds. Normally, at least prior to 1987, we've been have an open grant round where we receive applications, usually requesting up to $1.5 million. Usually, we allocate about $220,000. And in your packet is a list of the 2019 allocations and how we funded those. In 2019, the Community Development Committee made some recommendations on how to maybe modify some of those allocations. In the year 2020, that pandemic happened, and given the amount of focus staff needed for allocations on the federal allocations, we just simply didn't have the ability to focus on social service grant dollars being distributed. And so instead, we focused on the federal allocations that we had in getting the relief out there through coordination with other funds. So in essence, in 2020, you could think of those funds as being frozen. Now we're in 2021. We still have several focus areas on housing and federal allocations that we'd like to focus on. And in 2020, we worked closely with Dakota Medical Foundation, FM Area Foundation, United Way, and several other philanthropic organizations. And in doing so, we discovered FM Area Foundation runs a similar grant program than like the social service funds. And so we reached out to see about the possibility of partnerships. So what I have in front of you tonight is a request to allocate $100,000 to the FM Area Foundation. Normally, I would have taken this to the Finance Committee first and the Community Development Committee as well to have further discussion. However, there's an open grant round right now in the FM Area Foundation, and we would like to contribute $100,000 to this so that they could increase their funding allocations. We looked at the list of applications their staff shared with our staff, the list of applications that they received. Many of the same organizations you see in the 2019 list are the same. And so this would save staff many, many hours to, in lieu of opening our own grant round to participate in the FM Area Foundation grant round. This also shows a true partnership with other jurisdictions and other allocations besides just City of Fargo funding into more philanthropic aspects. So we'd like to try this out, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Did you say you're doubling your money? They're putting 100 in too?
I think they have several other $100,000s.
Okay, good. Discussion? Commissioner Strand?
I make the motion as recommended.
Is there a second?
Second. And I have a
Mr.
question.
Gary.
Is this the Art and Social Services Fund? And how is that funded?
It's a percentage of mill.
Right, so it's basically property taxes?
Yes.
Right, so we shouldn't have an Art and Social Services Fund. It's taking property taxes that you'd otherwise expect to go to fix your street, put a new stoplight in, whatever. We're taking that money from you, we're giving it to a charity, and we're calling it charity. It's not charity. You're taking from somebody who is not consenting to that, and you're giving it to somebody else. That's not charity. If I want to give money to a charity, I'll give money to a charity. I don't need the government to take money from me, roll it through the system, and then give it to somebody else. That is not charity.
Mr. Preston.
So Nicole, can you tell me, I'm assuming, well, let me ask the question. Will the FM Foundation be able to target these dollars towards Fargo-based organizations, or is it going to be open to whatever other organizations? And then the second question is, are they charging any kind of administrative fee?
They are not charging any type of administrative fee, so it's straight out $100,000 being distributed. So we're thankful of that because they are also putting several staff hours into it. In terms of, I would say it's a majority Fargo-based organizations, but basically this goes into the pool of they're selected as a whole. So we haven't gotten that specific since this particular pilot is so fast-moving.
Which is similar to the Arts Partnership relationship too.
Correct.
Okay. And it's wonderful that they're not pulling out anything for administration. That's great.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Garrig?
No.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Benederi, construction update. There's hardly any construction going on, is there?
I have to find a new way to work every day. Seems
Yeah.
between our projects and the North Dakota DOT, and there's a lot of new redevelopment happening and connecting those new sewer and water and storm sewer services is creating quite the excitement around town. So today is our update, and we continue to have no safety incidents this year. We are keeping our website and Facebook, Fargo Streets, keeping that updated. So if you want to look at any projects that are happening, these are the sites you can go to keep informed on our projects. So we have a couple of completed projects now. We have one of the new developments along with our crack fill project. We have quite a few new development projects. You're going to see up here, we've got quite a few projects that are on the south side, residential, along with our 64th Avenue overpass. And then on the north side, we have quite a few industrial developments occurring in the Lavernes and then along the Amazon site. So our ongoing projects for our rehab and reconstruction, we have 7th Avenue North yet ongoing, 11th Street, which is supporting redevelopment, North University Drive, which we're making safety improvements to that rural section. And then we have our citywide sidewalk and our mill and overlay. We also have our pavement markings. We have our streetlight rehab and traffic signal. And then we are doing widening up along the Amazon on 40th Avenue North. We also have our flood risk management projects. And so we're working up on the north side along the lagoon site north of 40th Avenue. We're working in Royal Oaks, Oak Grove, Elm Circle, and Riverwood. We also have some projects still starting up. We have 21st Avenue just south, the frontage road just south of the interstate. We are running into some issues with PVC pipe, which is delaying that project. And then we also have some new development, some concrete spot repair. And then we have one of the new street lighting projects, but in the old area. We've been working throughout the years to light up all of the dark areas in town. And this is, I think this is the last area we'll be lighting up. So we've got some pictures for you. We'll start with the 64th Avenue South overpass. On the right, you'll see them installing the wick drains, and on the left, placing the embankment to support that overpass. And then we will go to 38th Street, which is just to the right of, you can see the roadway going north and south. That's the new, that'll be the new site of the Parks facility. And then this is the Southwest Regional Pond. We have completed the excavation in one of the quadrants. So on the right, you'll see the drawing, and on the left, you'll see the actual pond excavation. I might have said that wrong. On the right, you'll see the drawing, and on the left, you'll see the pond excavation. Sorry.
No one
about
noticed.
Here you'll see what this first phase will look like. We've got the channel coming up into that quadrant excavation, and then you can kind of start to see where we're going to have those 4 bays. So we actually will have some 4 bays where the water will go in, filtrate out before it goes into the main pond. And then this is a picture of our 500,000 yards of excavation, and that Ames Construction is taking that over for our fill on 64th Avenue South overpass. And then the lift station here, we're starting to bring that up out of the ground. This is the paving up on Laverd's addition. That's the industrial park north of 19th Avenue North between 45th Street and I-29. This is the roadway just south of Amazon, getting that the paving associated with that. On 7th Avenue North, we're slowly getting more checks as I come back to you. And so we've got 3 phases that we're working in right now with 1 phase left to go. Here's a couple of pictures of the construction activity. It gets pretty busy out there.
Brenda, excuse me, back up one slide if you would, bear with me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the whistle-free zone, does it?
No.
Is the whistle-free zone still coming or still going to be
Yes.
there?
That's, we've been reviewing the plans, and so we will be looking at, once those plans are ready to go, we'll be creating that project.
And that will mesh with what we're doing now? The whistle-free zone will be engineered-wise planned for that? Or it'll mesh well?
Yeah, so we've had a request for that whistle-free zone. We're working on creating the plans. This is east of that, though. So.
I gotcha.
Right, so west of there is where that whistle-free zone will be.
Thank you.
This is 11th Street North, the reconstruction associated with that, with the redevelopment of the old Nestor site between MP and First Avenue North. And then we've got the North University Drive, the urban section that's going up there. And then we'll be installing bike trails up there also. So here's a picture of the new Oak Grove flood wall. Footings have been poured and they're getting ready to do the wall. Elm Circle, we've been installing the storm sewer that will be adjacent to the earthen levees. And then Riverwood, this is the new lift station that will be going in, that we're installing up in Riverwood to support the new earth levees up there.
Excellent.
And that is it.
A lot of stuff. Any questions, commissioners? Mr. Gard.
A lot of guys at the Guard are happy that's getting finished off there on 32nd Avenue North, because people would come from the north and they'd find the detour and have to drive around town to get back onto the base. And it stunk. What was that all about? What was the stench that was coming from that place for so long?
For
32nd Avenue
Oh.
and University going north.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it was bad. It was real bad. Anyway, happy to see it done.
So
Took Tony longer to get to work, so.
A lot longer.
You have my recommendations, reappointments on the following boards:
is
Native
the-
American Commission, Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals, Arts and Culture Commission, Human Relations Commission. Many people have volunteered to continue their positions on the boards, and the liaisons have looked at all those recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston,
Aye.
Gehrig,
Yes.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. We're adjourned. No.
Oh, no.
Any
Oh,
other
no,
business?
we're not. I would, if I had more backbone, I would suggest we all sing happy birthday to the mayor, but I think it's important we just acknowledge that our leader's birthday is today and that we hope it's a good day and the beginning of a great year.
Thank you, John.
Happy birthday.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.